I want to highlight this article because I think it relates to the metals, but it's also important information to understand about what's going on with the small farmers. But it will relate to the metals as far as when the metals finally do reach their very high highs, and assuming you're one of the smart people that's going to sell at that time, what do you do? What do you do? How do you comply with the law? And I think the laws are going to be like so crazy that you're probably not going to make any money. So that's one reason I'm going to sell in steps before the laws get crazy. But this is an article from the Food Freedom News, Radi Ananda, and I like this little saying here: resistance is fertile, and they got this symbol. So this is a good thing to read. It's from the foodfreedomgroup.com, and I'll post a link where the article is. I want to highlight this article because it relates to the metals and what's going to happen financially when the prices of the metals go way up and you guys are start to say, oh, I'm going to cash them in, I'm going to get rich. You watch, because I'm going to state what they're doing with the small farmers. Now, just to give a real quick highlight, today is Thursday, April 26th, 2012, and the markets are up in the metals so far. You know, maybe I should refresh this screen because I haven't looked at it in an hour or so. But yes, they're up. Gold is up, silver, platinum, palladium. The Dow is up, the S&P is up, the Nasdaq's up, the crude oil's up. Now, I'm long on all the metals. I got out all my short positions. I don't know if the correction period's over. That just could be one day it's up and it can go down tomorrow. But, you know, I went long on no leverage because I'm not certain as to if the correction period is over or not. And I'm just going to hold. So I'm long on gold, silver, platinum, palladium, in physical mainly, and also electronic, and also double long on oil. Now, the real highlight of this is about what's going to happen when you go to trade your metals in. What kind of rules are going to come up? And I want to get into this article now because I think what happens to these small farmers is what's going to happen to you people that have the metals. Now, I don't want you to get like all freaked out or anything about that. Just a word of caution, what's going to happen, and I'll give you some of the facts and what the parameters are and some of the rules and what they're looking for and that type of stuff. And you do whatever you want to do. I'm not suggesting to do anything illegal, but I know a lot of people are kind of intending to just make a bunch of money and run with the money, but I don't think it's going to work like that because the rules are different and people are not aware. They're not aware and they can get into a lot of trouble. So I want to kind of highlight some things. Now, I'm not going to give you like all kinds of expert advice in this stuff because I can't. It's going to be short. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's going to be 15 minutes, but I really can't, and I'm not. I've studied this stuff a bunch, dealt with the laws somewhat, and it's complicated, so I'm not really offering you financial advice here, but I'm just giving you a heads up what they're going to do when the metals go way up and you try to cash them in through this article about small farmers, what they do to them right now. It's related. It's related. This goes on to state Monsanto's Food and Drug Administration, in other words, the FDA is kind of owned by Monsanto and pharmaceutical companies. That's what they're stating, and I agree with that. The government is not owned by the little people. The government's owned by the big business now. That's our problem. Monsanto's FDA, Food and Drug Administration, can't close down small dairies and private food clubs fast enough, bursting on the scene with guns drawn as if the criminalized right to contract for natural foods we've consumed for 1,000 years or more, thousands of years actually, deserves SWAT attention. Yeah, so they come in there, drop that bottle of milk, you criminal, and they come in there with guns pointing at you, right? Well, in some cases they do that, and they're nuts. That's all I got to say. They're crazy. Anyway, now Obama has the Department of Justice going after small farmers under the post-911's Bank Secrecy Act. That's actually 1970, but they added more rules to it after the Patriot Act, after 911, which makes it a crime to deposit less than $10,000 when you earn more than that. So in other words, if you earn more than $10,000, you have to put it in the system. You have to put it in the system. Admittedly, when Sowers is the one that runs and owns South Mountain Creamery in Middleton, Maryland, this small farmer, admittedly when Sowers earned over $10,000 in February and learned that he'd have to fill out paperwork at the bank for such large deposits. They simply rolled the deposits over to keep them below the none of your business amount, rather, another below the 10,000, rather than waste time on bureaucratic red tape. So he, circumvented the law. But if you don't do it stupidly, or you got caught. So, God, I shouldn't say that, but I'm not telling anybody to do anything illegal. But God, if you are, don't do it like where you could say, screw that. Anyway, because I got a lot of people that are into the metals are going to say, well, I got $10,000 and, for selling my metals. And, somebody over in that coin place, wherever you did it, and they might not even be aware that they're going to have to, report who they sell to and all this type of stuff. And there's going to be transactions going on, and there's going to be different things looked at in various ways, and there's going to be different parameters to data mine who to look at. And once you get accused, they could just maybe seize your account right off the bat without even, due process, right? Because that's kind of like what goes on with these small farmers. They seize their accounts, even if when it turns out they did nothing wrong, they still don't give them most of their money back. Nice, huh? This is what's going on today. So I think they're going to do this with the small people that are investing in silver and gold when it does finally go up really high and they try to cash it in. They're going to play some games with these guys. So just a word of caution. Don't get all freaking crazy. But just a word of caution. And it goes on to state, you can just smell attorney Michael Taylor behind all of this, which is Obama's dairy dog. You'll also find instead is U.S. District Attorney Stephen Casella. He's the first to head the Department of Justice Asset Forfeiture and Money Laundering Section created in 2009. Having wrote the books on it, he cut his teeth on seizing $1.2 billion from real money launderer BCCI. So they're going after all these little people down too. The farmers that are trying to make food that's healthy, unlike the Monsanto criminals. I'll call them that. That's what I think they are anyway. And they pretty much go after little people. They don't touch the big guys. The big guys like Goldman Sachs and other criminal banksters are still in operation despite committing mega millions of acts of fraud during mortgage reassignments. Mortgage reassignments as to, stealing people's houses out from underneath them. But the Department of Justice prioritizes squashing family farmers since it's easier to pick the low-hanging fruit. In other words, it's easier to go after people that don't resist and little people that don't have the means to resist, rather than go after well-financed criminals with a lot of attorneys who seized millions of homes of U.S. citizens. I'm kind of paraphrasing the article to kind of explain what I'm saying, but the emphasis is basically on seizing money. That's the whole thing. That's what keeps the government agency in business. They seize the money. So they seize it, whatever one you can get next, whether it is legal or illegally earned, according to this article. It can lead to financial ruin for business owners, and there's a potential for abuse here by the government. That's according to former Maryland Assistant U.S. Attorney Stephen Levine. So this is what I think is going to be applied to people when they go sell their precious metals. When they will go up high. They will go up high. It might take. I think they're going to go up quite. I think the silver is going to double this year. I'm saying this a bunch of times. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it is. I think they're going to. They can't let things fall apart too much longer. So there's going to be some games going on that's going to bring up the commodities. So Obama will have to fight harder for his re-election. So that's what's going to happen. I think the metals are going to go up. But I think when they finally go up to, we're really high and people are like, oh, I'm going to be rich, you better watch how you're trading them in or what you're doing, because they got this thing. Actually, this act has been around a long time. The Bank Secrecy Act of 1970. Otherwise known as the Currency and Foreign Transactions Reporting Act. This is right off of Wiki. It's been around, but it's been modified. It's been modified by the USA Patriot Act. So there's more and more stuff coming into this act recently that's a lot stricter than it was. And as the financial crisis kind of more unfolds, and what you know it is, they're going to apply this act like crazy against people with precious metals as the metals go up. Just look at this example, how they're applying it against small farmers. Small farmers would be like, you would think, what the heck are they even bothering with that stuff for? But I guess it's Monsanto hates them, right? We got to own all the food. The hell with you small farmers. Anyway, the currency transaction report. The currency transaction report is something this has been around since 1970. And the CTR must report cash transactions in excess of $10,000 during the same business day. The amount over $10,000 can be either one transaction or a combination of cash transactions. It's a combination. So, and I shouldn't have mentioned this, but you know, any hooker knows, prostitute, right? They know about this $10,000 rule. So you people with the silver, know about the $10,000 rule. You ought to know it because all the hookers knew this for a million years. So, sometimes you got to look at other sources. But anyway, monetary instrument log, MIL. The MIL must indicate cash purchases of monetary instruments such as money orders, cash orders, and cashier's checks, traveler's checks, and values totaling $3,000 to $10,000 inclusive. I want to point this out because when you're doing different things and you're cashing money in, like say you're selling your metals, you're thinking, oh, it's under $10,000. Well, it didn't make $10,000 in a few months or whatever. There's other values and other parameters they're looking at. And in this SARS, suspicious activities reports, the SAR must report, the suspicious activity report must report any cash transaction where the customer seems to be trying to avoid BSA reporting requirements but not following the cash transaction report or the monetary instrument log. So the SAR must also be filed if the customer's actions suggest that he is laundering money or otherwise violate. In other words, it's kind of like a catch-all. Any suspicious activity, stick it on this report. And this is another thing. You can't trust, in other words, say you're doing this stuff and you're dealing in scrap metal, right? You're dealing in coins, you're dealing in stuff, and you're doing back and forth with these transactions. Don't trust. You need to be. I don't know, man. I'm just not telling you to do anything illegal. I'm just saying that this suspicious activity SARS report is pretty much encompassing. It's kind of like has catch-all wide language in it that can mean anything. And the first thing the government does is seize your money. You don't need that stuff, and you don't want to get on this. So I just think people should be aware of this. And when the metals go up really high, I think they're going to apply these rules like crazy and even make more rules about them. The bank, this goes on to state, the bank should not let the customer know that the SAR is being filed. These reports are filed with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Act, or FinCEN. Now, you can read a lot about FinCEN and I've read so much stuff, I forgot it, and it's like, God, it's a bunch of shit. I start thinking about all these rules. It's like everybody who learns this stuff is being paid money to go around with this shit instead of produce some real good that somebody needs. And if this is where my common sense comes in. I'm kind of adding something to this. What's wrong with the damn economy in itself? We got so many stupid reports and bureaucracy and red tape that look around you. What do you have? What do you use? You have your home, you have your furniture, you have your electronics, you have your appliances, you have your vehicles, you have your communications, you have your food, you have electricity. These are the things that are essential, and these are things that need to be produced that people need. All this crap that requires all kinds of brain power and time and study to learn produces nothing. Over what? So I want to kind of throw that in there right now because I do find these rules to be aggravating because they don't do shit. How's that? Plain language. Anyway, it's more that special high intensity training, right? Anyway, sanctions. There are heavy penalties for individuals and institutions that fail to file the the suspicious activity reports, the money instrument log, and the SARS, right? Suspicious activity reports, and the God, I forget these damn things. Currency transaction reports. There are also penalties for a bank which discloses to its clients that has filed a suspicious activity report about the client. So the bank is never going to tell you shit. It could be some idiot that's like a freaky Poindexter moron that's, I'm going to get in this car. I'm going to say this a little bit more bluntly honest. But you know the type that are like trained and like, oh, that one's a terrorist. That one's freaking doing this. It could be some idiot could have filed some crap on you. And you're like, they can't tell you because the bank will be in trouble. Penalties include heavy fine and prison sentences for people who like basically tell the client that, you know, that they filed a suspicious activity report on you. So this is like, you know, George Orwellian BS to the max, you know. And you know, you got to resist this crap, but you know, part of the resistance is being aware that it exists. You know, I knew about this crap and I studied about it, and I actually knew it a lot better before because I forgot what these stupid acronyms are. But it's like 90% probably of the people who are buying silver coins aren't even aware of this kind of crap, and I just want to make people aware of it. And you know what they're doing with even the small farmers. Well, figure that's what they're going to do with the people that have the silver coins. So be careful. And, you know, if you're going to try to play that game under the radar, which it seems to be most of the people out there in a silver coin world, and you're better off doing like really super tiny amounts or some crap, very small amounts, you know, or whatever you're going to do, versus trying to go hog wild with it and get rich. Because I think the people that, well, it's almost a sure bet. If you had like few thousand ounces of silver or some garbage and you went and turned it in at, you know, $800 an ounce or some garbage, and you got your 2.4 million, whatever that comes out to be, you're gonna, and you know, you just dump it in some bank accounts or some crap. I mean, you're gonna be the first one they're gonna like look at, you know. You'd be an idiot to do that. And I think there's gonna be some people doing crap like that, and I'm just, you know, anyway. Just a little warning out there what's going to happen in the future. And, you know, you could tell what's going to happen in the future by what's happening now. What the rules are right now and what they're doing with the little farmers. They're like screwing them up left and right. So they're going to screw up all the little people with the silver unless they're careful and cautious of what's going to happen. It's not going to be such a smooth thing. The currency resets and you're going to get rich. Even if that happened where the silver did go up to some crazy amount of money. I think it is. But be careful about, you know, the different rules out there with the Bank Secrecy Act and the Patriot Act and all this other garbage. And I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, but I think 90% of the people out there in the silver coin collecting business, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if I should call it coin collecting, coin investing business. How's that? Sorry. And they are not aware of these different things that can happen, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of garbage out there. You know, your friendly local banker, you know, filling out a suspicious report that you know, who the hell knows, for something that you would never even think, right? Probably totally innocent, but then you're guilty. So just be cautious, and chill out, because sometimes but yeah, if they come and draw guns and you're buying a bottle of milk someplace, I don't know about that. I mean, I think you could defend yourself. I'll leave it at that. So, you know, you don't always have to be a sheep. I mean, if somebody like wants to kill you over a bottle of milk, I don't know. Take the bottle and bust it over their head. You know, what can I tell you, right?